What if the quietest person in the room is actually the most powerful? Could silence, often mistaken for weakness, be your greatest source of strength and clarity? Discover why speaking less not only builds deeper respect, but also trains the mind for mastery, resilience, and influence in every area of life. In a world that never stops buzzing, where voices rise from every corner, from social media feeds to real-life conversations, silence has become almost foreign, even mistaken for weakness or a lack of confidence. But that's a serious misconception, because within that quiet space lies a powerful force that few have the patience to uncover. People who speak less aren't silent because they have nothing to say. They choose their words carefully because they understand that not everything deserves to be said. These individuals are often seen as deeper thinkers, more mature, and mentally stronger. They're happier, more successful, and above all, they earn respect not because they promote themselves, but because they let their actions and calm presence speak for them. Even the great Stoic philosophers Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus understood the power of silence. They didn't speak often, but when they did, the world listened. We often talk too much, not out of necessity, but out of fear of emptiness. Yet, it's in restraint that we uncover the true depth of thought. Today I'll walk you through 7 reasons why speaking less earns you more respect, and how you can turn silence into an unshakable personal strength. 1. The power of calmness in communication. In a world where noise overwhelms silence, where everyone tries to speak more, speak faster to capture attention, it is the calmness in your words that makes you stand out and earns respect. It's a simple yet profound paradox and one of the core lessons of Stoic philosophy. Speak less, speak right, and only speak when it truly matters. To a Stoic, words are not just a means of communication. They are a measure of the inner self. When you speak less, every word you choose carries the weight of thought and self-control. You're no longer swayed by fleeting emotions or the pressure to respond instantly. Instead, you gain the ability to pause, to remain silent when needed, and to speak only when your words truly hold value. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once wrote in Meditations, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." A short, decisive sentence, yet it embodies a life principle worth reflecting on. To a Stoic, words are not tools of manipulation or self-display, but a commitment to truth and ethics. You don't speak to impress. You speak to demonstrate strength and genuine understanding. This idea is clearly reflected in the renowned letters of Seneca, one of the 3 great pillars of Stoic philosophy, to Lucilius. Seneca left behind a valuable legacy through these letters, where he shared deep insights on the art of communication and inner discipline. In them, he not only taught that words should be chosen carefully, but also emphasized that every word carries with it an irreversible impact. He believed that if we let impulsive emotions overpower reason, just a few seconds of losing control could lead to long-term consequences, from losing others, trust, to the erosion of personal honor. Seneca held that for someone walking the Stoic path, every word must be the product of careful reflection and absolute self-mastery. He likened well-chosen words to rare gold, scarce but far more valuable than the countless worthless coins of shallow talk. Through his restraint and intentional use of language, Seneca developed a way of speaking that made others not just listen, but reflect and truly value each phrase. This didn't just build his personal credibility. It gave his messages a timeless power and vitality. In today's world, that same calmness still holds its worth. Someone who knows how to listen, who pauses to think before replying, is often the one who earns trust and respect. They don't rush to conclusions and don't get swept away by emotions or peer pressure. Instead, they create a quiet space where words are not weapons, but a reflection of wisdom and personal strength. When you practice calmness in communication, you are also training your inner world. Purposeful silence is not weakness. It is the mark of a strong spirit. Someone who knows who they are and doesn't need to shout to prove it. A Stoic does not seek respect by saying more, but by making every word count. Perhaps most importantly, speaking less helps you listen more to others, to the world, and to yourself. In that quiet, you learn how to respond rather than react. How to understand others before striving to be understood. In the next part, we'll explore another essential aspect of Stoic communication: how to manage emotions and avoid overreacting. A skill that helps you stay composed, especially in tense situations. Let's discover how Stoic thinkers trained their minds to stay unmoved in the face of provocation or attack, and why this is a vital foundation for earning genuine respect from others. 2. Managing emotions and avoiding overreaction. The ability to control emotions and avoid overreacting is not just a vital life skill. It's the clearest sign of inner maturity. Stoicism teaches us that composure in speech is the gateway to respect. It's how we stay grounded in the emotional storms of both personal and professional life. When someone learns to speak less in emotionally charged situations, they're not staying silent because they have nothing to say. They're choosing to delay their response to give emotions time to settle, to give reason a chance to step in. That silence carries weight. It's not the silence of weakness, but of strength. In the moment when others are quick to lash out, argue, or attack, the person who holds back preserves something far more valuable: clarity. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This quote affirms a core principle of Stoicism. The power to control our emotions lies within us, not in other people's actions or external circumstances. When we choose silence over anger, we're acting from inner strength. True power isn't in who speaks the loudest, it's in who stands firm, enough not to be pulled into the whirlpool of negative emotion. In practice, there are countless examples of the value of composure in communication. Take Howard Schultz, the founder and former CEO of Starbucks, who was known for his calm leadership style. During a high-stakes executive meeting, a major conflict broke out over the company's global strategy. Tensions ran so high that even one impulsive reaction could have shattered trust among the top leadership. But Schultz chose silence. He didn't react instantly. He didn't use his authority to push through his personal views. Instead, he listened truly, listened to every perspective, allowing others to fully express their concerns without interruption. Only after everyone had spoken did he respond. And what he said was brief. Not flashy, but carried enough weight to shift the conversation. A call to focus on practical solutions instead of sinking further into disagreement. This choice to say less, but at the right moment, is what made Schultz a respected leader. Not just because of his business acumen, but because of his emotional discipline and his ability to lead with clarity. People listen to someone like that not because they speak often, but because when they do, everyone knows it matters. In the light of Stoicism, impulsive reactions are signs of an untrained mind. Words spoken out of anger or hurt rarely reflect our true selves. They show the most fragile and easily manipulated version of us. When we speak too much in a moment of agitation, we often end up hurting others and creating damage that may take a long time or may never fully heal. Composure then is more than a virtue. It's a wise communication strategy. Speaking less doesn't mean lacking ideas. It means knowing when to speak and when to hold back. In many cases, timely silence is the most powerful language of all. A message that you are strong enough not to be dragged into meaningless arguments and wise enough not to use words as weapons. In the end, learning to speak less is also learning to respect both yourself and others. When you don't let emotions dictate your words, you send a clear signal that you are in control of yourself. And for that, you earn the respect of others. 3. Listening to understand and respect others. In one of the most deeply divided periods in American history, the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln did something few leaders would dare to do. He invited those who opposed him, those with conflicting views, into his own cabinet. These were people who disagreed with him on how to resolve the conflict, how to approach the issue of slavery, and even how to run the country. But Lincoln wasn't shaken by their opposition. He listened, he observed, and he considered. In his calm silence, he built a team where ideological diversity wasn't a weakness, it was a strength. From that deep listening, some of the most critical decisions in American history were born. In a world where everyone rushes to speak, to claim the right, to control the conversation, choosing to say nothing becomes a powerful act. Stoicism calls it temperance, the ability to restrain oneself from the temptation to perform. Why does speaking less earn you more respect? When you don't rush to say something, you show that you are grounded enough not to need to show off. More importantly, you give the other person a valuable space to be heard, to be understood. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This isn't just communication advice, it's a life principle. In Stoic philosophy, speech isn't merely a tool for conveying information, it's a weapon, one that can wound or uplift, and the best way to wield it is with restraint. When you speak less, you're not giving up power. On the contrary, you're gathering information, reading reactions, and empathizing with others' emotions. People who listen well build stronger relationships, not just because they understand others, but because they are trusted by others. Respect doesn't come from saying profound things. It comes from making others feel profoundly understood. Silence also gives you time to think in conversation. People often grow impatient with silence, but it's in that very silence that insight and depth are born. You don't need to respond instantly. You have the right to pause, reflect, and only speak when your words truly matter. That selectiveness gives your words weight and meaning. Abraham Lincoln understood this well. He wasn't a man of many words, but when he spoke, the entire nation listened. The respect he earned didn't come from fiery speeches, but from his calm presence, from his ability to make decisions after thoroughly hearing out all sides, even those who disagreed with him. And that is one of Stoicism's most important lessons. Respect doesn't come from overpowering. It comes from self-mastery and intellectual humility. We don't need to be presidents to apply this. At work, when you let others speak first before offering feedback, you're showing respect. In relationships, when you hear the full story before responding, you're laying a strong foundation for connection. And in life, when you stop feeling the need to always have an opinion, you free yourself from the pressure to perform and save your energy for actions that truly count. Speaking less isn't about withholding your voice. It's about elevating its impact. It means you choose your moments with precision, speak with clarity, and make each word a deliberate act of influence, rather than reaction. When you do that, every word you say carries the weight of understanding, the calm of reflection, and the presence of someone worth listening to. And that, just as Stoic philosophy taught thousands of years ago, is the true foundation of respect. 4. Choosing your words carefully and meaningfully. Even without weapons, power, or wealth, a person can still create a profound impact through words alone. But not every word earns respect. In fact, the more one speaks, the easier it is to become forgettable. On the other hand, words that are carefully chosen carry lasting power. Stoic philosophy teaches us that every word we say should reflect virtue, not be the result of impulsive emotions or a need for attention. A Stoic doesn't speak to impress. They speak to express the depth of awareness, self-control, and understanding. Epictetus once wrote, "First learn the meaning of what you say, and then speak." This isn't just communication advice, it's a guide for living. It underscores that words shouldn't be automatic reactions, but thoughtful expressions of comprehension. Before you say something, ask yourself, do I truly understand what I'm about to say? If the answer is no, it's better to remain silent. That is what it means to live responsibly with yourself, your listeners, and the truth. A Stoic knows this well, and that's why they speak less. But when they do, every word carries weight. In today's world, where communication moves at lightning speed and social media encourages constant sharing, choosing silence and selecting your words becomes an act of courage. This is not suppression, it's discernment. Discernment keeps your message from being diluted. When someone speaks only when necessary and says only what truly matters, they compel others to listen. Restraint becomes magnetic, because it makes each word feel like it carries something worth pondering. History affirms this truth powerfully. Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech is a prime example of the power of carefully crafted words. At a time when America was deeply divided by racism, he didn't choose harsh rhetoric or combative language. Instead, he spoke with calm conviction, using words shaped with care to awaken the human conscience. He didn't rely on long-winded paragraphs, dry statistics, or complex logic. All he needed was a simple phrase, "I have a dream." Each repetition didn't become dull. It became more powerful because it wasn't just one man's personal dream. It was a symbol of a nation's longing for freedom, justice, and dignity. Every word and image he used, from white and black children holding hands to the hills of Georgia, bathed in justice, was chosen like a delicate stroke in a masterpiece. It was that restraint and elegance in his speech that helped make it one of the most impactful addresses in human history. Not because he spoke a lot, but because every word he spoke was truly worth hearing and worth remembering. Stoic philosophy doesn't dismiss the importance of speech. It emphasizes that words must be paired with self-mastery. When you know exactly what you're saying, why you're saying it, and what purpose it serves, you're speaking as someone accountable for their inner world. This matters more than ever in an age where people react instantly, speaking without thinking. In that context, the person who can pause, reflect, and speak only after careful thought is the one who earns trust and respect. Those who speak too much often dilute the strength of their message. In contrast, those who speak with precision are like artisans, each word a brush stroke, contributing to a complete picture. That's why people who speak less but go deeper, who speak less but speak truth, are the ones truly heard. Their silence isn't ignorance. It's preparation. Preparation for words that will be spoken with accuracy, completeness, and meaning. Respect doesn't come from how much you talk. It comes from how well you understand the value of every word you say. When speech becomes a reflection of morality and intellect, when it is no longer driven by fleeting emotion, then you're not just speaking, you're guiding, inspiring, and within that controlled quiet, you create the space for others to see you as someone worth trusting, worth listening to, and worth admiring. So remember this: speaking less is not a sign of insecurity. It's the mark of cultivated inner strength. In a noisy world, the one who chooses words with intention is the one who stands out, not through volume but through depth. not through the number of words but through the force behind each one. 5 actions that speak the fullest of your values. There is one quality that always creates deep appeal and lasting respect. Silence, accompanied by the right action. In today's world where everyone is scrambling to speak, those who choose silence stand out even more. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they understand that true value lies not in words, but in the way one lives. Stoic philosophy has long emphasized one truth: words are pliable, easily used to hide or show off. Actions, on the other hand, cannot pretend. When you speak less, you're forced to let your actions represent you, and that's when people truly start listening to you. Not with their ears, but through observation, through what they feel, and through trust. Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman emperor and one of the most iconic Stoic philosophers, was a living example of this principle. During his turbulent reign, he never let the throne distance him from his values. Though he held supreme power, he chose to live simply, quietly, with discipline and rationality. He didn't use his title to shout his worth. He let his actions reflect it. Meditations, the personal journal he wrote for himself, not for publication, is a treasure trove of profound thought. In it, he recorded his internal dialogues, his struggles, his self-reminders, and his efforts to shape himself through daily actions. One of his most powerful quotes reads, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." That line is a direct blow to the habit of over-talking, over-analyzing, and over-preaching without doing. Marcus didn't write it just to scold himself, but to remind future generations that ideals don't live on our lips. They live in our daily behavior, in every specific decision we make. This mindset isn't just an ancient idea, it's a timeless way of living beyond philosophy. In the Bible, Jesus didn't use pride or noise to prove his power. He washed the feet of his disciples, embraced the sick, and walked with the outcast not for praise, but because it was the right thing to do. He inspired not through loud speech, but through a life full of compassionate, loving action. When you meet someone who doesn't talk much but consistently acts with integrity, no one needs them to declare they're good or trustworthy. That quiet strength creates a sense of stability and credibility, a kind of natural authority that can't be faked. Respect doesn't come from what we say we are, it comes from how others see us live. This becomes even more evident in hard times when words become empty and only actions remain. The Stoics understood that life is a constant moral test, and every action we take is a declaration of our inner values without needing applause, without needing an audience. So when you choose to speak less, you're not disappearing from the world. You're creating space for your true value to speak. Not through a microphone, but through each step you take, each choice you make. You do the right thing without needing to announce it. You help others without needing recognition. And in that silence, people begin to truly see who you are. In a world where everyone is shouting to be noticed, be the one who chooses to live powerfully in silence. Because that silence is the solid foundation on which your actions shine. What do you think? Aren't the quietest people around you often the ones you trust the most? Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever witnessed someone whose actions spoke louder than their words? Let's talk about it and learn together how to speak less and live more. 6. Control your inner self and focus on your core values. In a world where words can be unleashed with the push of a button, the power of silence is becoming increasingly rare and therefore more valuable. Control your inner self and focus on your core values isn't just a principle in Stoic philosophy. It's a way of life that helps you preserve your personal integrity in a chaotic world. When you learn to speak less, you don't lose yourself in pointless debates. You find yourself in stillness. Silence, by its nature, isn't just the absence of noise. It's the intentional space where awareness, insight, and strength quietly grow. It's the space where awareness is restored. When you choose not to react, not to rush to express an opinion, that's when you allow yourself to step back and ask, what am I thinking? Where is this emotion coming from? Does this reaction reflect the person I want to become? Stoicism doesn't teach us to suppress emotions. It teaches us to control them with reason. And that control only happens when we stop judging immediately, stop responding impulsively, and begin observing ourselves. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This quote is a guiding light for anyone who wants to stay calm in the storm. We can't change the world. We can't make everyone understand us. We certainly can't control how society reacts to every word we say. But we can always control ourselves, and silence is the subtlest yet strongest expression of that control. When you choose silence over reacting to an insult, it isn't weakness, it's inner strength. Epictetus, a slave who became a philosopher, is living proof of that. Throughout his life, everything external was taken from him: freedom, possessions, and even physical well-being. But one thing no one could take away was his autonomy. He once said, "If you want true freedom, train your mind to no longer be led by desire or fear." And that begins not with reacting, but with pausing, not with speaking, but with thinking. I once witnessed a friend, a passionate young manager, go through a rough patch in his career. He was publicly criticized in a meeting for a decision that hadn't received full consensus. His first instinct was to respond with words, to explain, to justify, and to speak as much as possible in an attempt to protect his image. But the more he spoke, the more his tension showed, making others perceive him as lacking composure and control. His previous confidence was quickly replaced by visible discomfort. After a private conversation with me, he decided to change. From that day on, he chose to speak less only when truly necessary and focused on listening. He acknowledged all feedback, adjusted his behavior, and let his actions speak louder than words. Then something remarkable happened. Gradually, those who had once doubted him began to see him differently. They saw in him calmness, maturity, and above all, a trustworthy leading, not because of persuasive words, but because of a quiet strength that came from intentional silence. When you know what matters to you, core values like integrity, patience, and responsibility, you don't need to say much to prove it. It's the way you stay silent when needed, act when it's right, and hold your ground when tested that speaks loudest about who you are. A Stoic understands that true respect doesn't come from words. It comes from the alignment between thought and action. So next time you feel the urge to speak up, pause for a moment, listen to yourself. Ask, am I saying this because it serves my values or just to satisfy my ego? If the answer isn't clear, then silence might be the better choice. And if you think all of this is only about staying calm in the moment, then you haven't yet seen what truly matters. Because up next, we're diving into the heart of this topic: how to build a lasting reputation and respect over time without needing to say too much. Get ready. This isn't just advice. It's a life strategy. 7. Building a reputation and respect that lasts over time. Joe Willink, former Navy SEAL commander, is not a man of many words. In interviews, under pressure, or standing before hundreds in leadership training sessions, one thing remains constant. His words are short, clear, and carry weight. Willink doesn't ramble, doesn't dramatize. He says only what's necessary to drive action and create real impact. His less talk, more action philosophy isn't just how he led his team in combat. It's a principle that now defines his leadership style in the business world. What's remarkable is this: people listen to him not because he talks a lot, but because every word he says carries weight, grounded in calmness, experience, and behavioral consistency. From the image of Joe Willink, we see a truth the Stoic philosophers understood thousands of years ago. Speaking less but with precision and at the right time creates longer-lasting influence than any string of speeches ever could. In an era where everyone can speak up, debate, and post opinions on social media as an instinctive reflex, choosing silence or speaking selectively has become a form of inner strength. And that's something not everyone possesses. Stoicism, a philosophy built on practicality and inner strength, has long taught us it's not your words that make you trustworthy, but your way of living and your ability to control your actions. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have." While this quote doesn't directly mention speech or listening, it reflects a deeper principle. When we let go of the need to perform or prove ourselves through words, we return to self-mastery, choosing silence, choosing to listen. That's how we keep control in communication, and that's how we earn lasting respect. When you speak less, you force yourself to think more. Every word becomes a filtered result of intentional thought, not just an impulsive reaction. This not only makes you clearer in the eyes of others, but also shows that you have self-restraint, one of the core Stoic virtues. Whether in the workplace, society, or personal relationships, those who can restrain their speech are often seen as mature, grounded, and reliable. This habit of speaking less when paired with clear action becomes the foundation on which lasting respect is built. On the flip side, talking too much often dilutes your own message. People who constantly share opinions, complain, or boast eventually lose credibility, not because they're wrong, but because they make their words feel cheap. Stoicism doesn't reject language. It simply emphasizes that words only matter when they're grounded in reason and used in service of ethical, responsible action. Reputation. The thing many people chase so eagerly is often built strongest when we stop trying to craft it with words. A person is remembered not for what they said, but for how they lived. That's why Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius or Seneca are revered not just for the words they left behind, but for living in alignment with what they wrote. Consistency between word and action. Philosophy and life. Respect is not something you can talk your way into. It comes from the steady repetition of right actions paired with silence at the right moments. Like a blacksmith, one forges a reputation, with every strike, not with oaths, not with promises, but by acting on principle day after day. In the end, what earns you respect isn't what you said. It's that others feel what you say is worth hearing, and that feeling only exists when they know you're not speaking to impress but to get to the truth. Respect, when built through self-control, listening, and right action, doesn't fade with time. It lasts, like the name Joe Willink or like anyone who lives true to the spirit of Stoic philosophy. Thank you for watching today's video. Together we've explored why speaking less often earns greater respect, not because silence is weakness, but because it reflects calmness, self-control, and deep understanding. Those who speak less are often the ones who truly listen, who know when to speak up, and most importantly, who let their actions speak for their worth. That's the very spirit that Stoic philosophy strives to embody. So how about you? In your daily life or work, have you ever chosen silence over arguing and found that it led to a better outcome? Share your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss future content. And if you're ready to keep growing with Stoicism, click on the next video that's showing on your screen. See you in the next one.